Iran's Interior Ministry has confirmed that a runoff presidential election will be held on Friday after none of the candidates in the Snap poll secured 50% of the vote. The reformist Massoud Pezeshkian, a heart surgeon, won the highest number of votes. One of his hardline rivals, Saeed Jalili, came second after taking an early lead. The election was called after the death of ultra-conservative President Ebrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash last month. The four candidates were all vetted by an influential committee of clerics before they could stand. Turnout was about 40%, according to an Interior Ministry count, the lowest on record since the 1979 revolution, raising questions about the legitimacy of Iran's system of government. Let's speak now to Siavash Ardalan from BBC Persian. So we now know, Siavash, that there will be a runoff on Friday. So what does that mean? How will that take place?
Well, the second round of election will always traditionally, be held a week later. As it stands now, from the 24 million votes that have been counted, 10.5 million went to the heart surgeon, to the pro-reform candidate, and 9.5 to the far-right candidate, Saeed Jalili, and 3 million to the center-right candidate, which will be the kingmaker in the second round of elections, because those 3 million people who voted for the center-right candidate, we have to see whether they will choose a pro-reform and a moderate candidate who is in support of relations with the West and trying to resolve Iran's nuclear deal and the sanctions, those devastating sanctions that are crushing the people inside Iran, or whether they will choose to vote for Saeed Jalili, who was a former nuclear negotiator, very hardline, tough politician who doesn't even believe that sanctions are an issue, who thinks that the country has enough potential to advance on its own through alliances with Russia and China without any help from the West.
One of the major talking points about this election is the low turnout, of course.
That's been the main takeaway from this election. This is a historic event, unprecedented. The lowest turnout last time around was 48%, and now this, on the back of a huge, massive nationwide protest 2 years ago over the death of Mahsa Amini, over the issue of mandatory hijab, which led a lot of Iranians to, soul search. What do they really want? What kind of a society do they want? Whether they want to live with a, clerical theocracy, which, dictates foreign policy and their lifestyle, or whether they want to completely change the system and go for something, more secular and more democratic. And through this election and this low turnout at 40%, not even counting those spoiled ballots, which, might bring the turnout to 30%, it sends a very big message to the Iranian establishment, particularly the supreme leader, who had said just a few days before this election that a high turnout will mean a confirmation of the system's legitimacy, and a low turnout would be bad news.
And what do these results so far show about the tensions within Iranian politics?
Well, it shows that the society has become radicalized. Radicalized because a lot of people are staying away from the ballot booth, they're against the entire political system, but also because the conservative votes have also become radicalized more towards the right. So the majority of those people who always voted conservative are now voting for a very hardline candidate and really banishing the center-right candidate, Ghalibaf, who was kind of, hardline and at the same time was in favor of relations with the West as well. So it really depends on whether that segment of the two radicalized segments of society, how the dynamics between them will play, and whether that would favor eventually a moderate candidate or a very hardline candidate.
Siavash, thank you very much for the update. Well, let's take a closer look at the leading contenders. The reformist candidate Massoud Pezeshkian is a former heart surgeon and health minister. He's faithful to Iran's ruling clerics, but supports ties with the West, as well as economic reform. He's also said the actions of Iran's morality police, who enforce strict dress codes on women, are immoral. The Conservative candidate is hardliner Saeed Jalili. He's a former secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council and a former nuclear negotiator. He served for 4 years in Ayatollah Khamenei's office. Jalili was opposed to Iran's 2015 nuclear deal and to striking deals with the West. Well, Rusbeh Parsi is head of the Middle East programme at the Swedish Institute of International Affairs. He explained the significance of the voter turnout for Iran's elections.
Well, the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei has often touted the fact that Iranians tend to go and vote as a sign of how popular or legitimate the system is. So now, obviously, that is a line that he cannot use. And of course, he himself has made this situation by alienating a lot of the electorate by simply not allowing their potential candidates to stand. Well, the important thing with the Iranian system that we need to keep in mind is that it's a very collective system. So it's not something that's going to stand or fall with one single person. But the president gets to modulate the baseline of what the system is accepting or wants to do. So in that sense, it makes a huge difference whether it's someone like Pezeshkian, who is more moderate and more willing to listen to what people want, whether he can then realize that is a different thing. And someone like Jalili, who has a very, if you will, very set idea, nostalgic about the revolution of the 1980s, and does not believe that there is anything to be had from any kind of serious relationship with Western countries.